Hi everyone, this is the final video for week 3. This one is going to cover the file permissions. File permissions are really important obviously on a multi-user operating system because there are lots of different people logged on that have access to the file system. So you want to make sure that you protect your files appropriately and only permit access to those who you want to have the access. So first of all, let's look and see how we can view the file permissions. So I'm just going to hop over to Linux. So I'm in fact, let's do pwd, print working directory, to see where we are. So I'm in my home directory for my user Don Wilson. So I'm just going to do an ls and I'm going to use the option -l so we get a full listing. Using the full listing means we do get to see the file permissions. So the file permissions are over here on the left hand side. So the very first character denotes whether or not it is a file or a directory. So hyphen just means it's a regular file. D, which we can see down the bottom here, means it's a directory. There are other characters as well that have different meanings. So for instance, there's L, which symbolises it's a link, and there's a few others. But majority of the time you'll see either hyphen for file and D for directory. Following this, there's a set of 9 characters. And these 9 characters basically represent the permission that each user has for that file. So the first 3 characters, so if we look at the first line, unfortunately I can't hover my cursor over, but I've put it at the side. The first line, the first 3 characters are R, W and hyphen. Those first 3 characters represent the permission for the owner of the file. Okay, so the person that actually created the file. So in this case, the owner has read and write permission. The next 3 characters, which are R hyphen hyphen, that's the permissions for the group that the file belongs to. How do we know what the group is? Well, if we jump along a couple of columns, you'll see that the first Don Wilson is the owner column, and the next Don Wilson is the group column. I'm just actually going to try something a wee second. Sometimes you can get headers on these. I can't remember the command. 2 seconds. We see if we can get that up and running. Nope, it's not added in. Maybe it's capital H. It doesn't work with all of them. No, it doesn't. Okay, worth a try. Okay, so the 2 Don Wilson columns. The first Don Wilson column is the owner of the file, and the second Don Wilson column is the group the owner belongs to. So I haven't created any groups on this installation, but if you're a sysadmin you would create groups obviously. So you might have, in the case of if it was a college or university, you probably have a staff group and a student group. So the groups also have a set of permissions. So back to looking at these characters. So the first 3 I said were the permissions for the owner. The next 3 are the permissions for the group. So anybody that's part of the Don Wilson group can read, that's it. Write and execute are both hyphens, so they don't have the permission for that. And then the last 3 characters are the permissions for anybody else that's on the system. So in other words, somebody that isn't the owner and also doesn't belong to the group, then they have the permission in this case to read only, and that's it. Let's drop down here just to give you another example for the directory. So the week 1 directory, D for directory. So the owner, so Don Wilson, has RWX, so I have read, write and execute permission. The next 3 characters are for the group. So the group, anybody that belongs to the group Don Wilson has the permission to read and execute. And then finally, anybody out with this, so it's not the owner, doesn't belong to the group, they also have permission to read and execute. So you have to think carefully when you create your files what permission you want to have on them. What you guys will find that you'll need to use this for this class, not for when you're on a customer site, but for this class, when you try and later on when you create your Python files on Linux using the Linux editor, which you'll learn about later, when you create those Python files, by default, as you can see, if I just put my wee cursor there, you'll see that when you create a file, then there is no executable permission on that file by default. The default settings are the user or the owner can read and write, the group can read, and everybody else can read. So it's not an executable file. Now obviously Python .py is an actual program that you want to execute, so you will have to change the permissions in that file in order to make it executable before you'll be able to run it in Linux. So bear that one in mind. I will remind you when we get to the Python exercises. I'll make sure that's a wee note in the exercises so you don't forget. Okay, so we've talked about what the permissions look like. Now we need to know how to change them. There is only one command for changing permissions, and that is the chmod command. So chmod command modifies the permissions on files and on directories. Now the chmod command has got two different formats. So two different ways you can use the command. Either way is as good as the other. It really just comes down to personal preference and which one makes sense to you and which one you can remember, basically. Let's jump to the slides to explain the different formats. You should have read through these. So one of the formats uses the user group other, uses basically three tables. So one of the formats gets you to, first of all, pick, using a letter, identify who it is you're changing the permissions for. So if it was user, it would be you. Next to that, you have to then make a selection from this table to decide whether you're adding a permission, removing a permission, or setting a permission. Now, for setting a permission, that's just where if it's a hyphen, it's not been set before, so you can use the set. To be honest, it's the same as using the add, so it really doesn't matter. And the final table, you have to pick whether you want it to be a read, write, or execute permission that you're changing. So let's look at how that actually works in reality. Okay, so let's go back here and pick a file. So let's pick, why don't we pick the Python one, seeing as I was talking about that. So let's pick python1.py. So the first thing we need to do is decide who I want to modify it for. So I want to run the Python file, so I'm the owner, so let's modify the permission for the actual owner of the file, so the user. So if we go to table 1, the owner of the file is the user, so that is you. So I need to use the letter U. That's the first thing I need. Then I need to go to table 2 and say whether I'm adding, removing, or setting a permission. So I'm going to add a permission. So I'm going to use plus for add. And then finally, I need to pick something from table 3 to complete the command. So I need to say whether I'm going to add read, write, or execute. So I'm going to add execute permission. So X. Okay. That's how you use it. So when you use chmod in this way, you need to provide it with 3 arguments. Who you're modifying the file or directory for, whether you're adding, removing, or setting a permission, and then finally what the permission is, whether it's read, write, or execute. So you need to provide 3 arguments. After that, you need a space and then the name of the file you want that to apply to, or directory. So I'm going to say python1.py. So right now, if you look at python1.py, you'll see it's just read and write and then read. So let's see what happens. So now you'll see that python1.py is now read, write, execute for the owner, and the other 2 remain the same because I only added execute permission for the actual user or the owner of the file. You'll also notice, if you're paying attention, that the colour of the file name has changed. I mentioned this in a previous video, that the syntax highlighting, if it's an executable file, it turns it green. So normal files are white, executable files green, directories blue. There's a few other system file syntax highlighting as well that you might come across. Okay, so we just added the permission, an execute permission for the user. So it's very straightforward to use the chmod. I'm not brilliant at remembering what's in each table. I know it's only 3 things I need to remember for each, but I forget. So I actually prefer the second way of using it, the second method. So the second method uses numbers, and I just find this much easier because all I need to do is remember 1 table instead of 3 tables. So basically, again, we have got a value for read. This time it's all numeric based. So read permission has a value 4, write permission has a value 2, and execute permission has the value 1. And what I like about this one is you can actually set all your permissions at once for all the users. Whereas in this one, you'll see we had to, if we look back up at the chmod here, we had to pick which user we were changing it for. Now obviously if you wanted to do it for all, then you could pick the other group, which would naturally include these two as well, but I feel it just gets a wee bit confusing. So this one is what I prefer. So what happens is there again we have to provide 3 values to chmod. So the first value we provide to chmod is the permission for the owner of the file. So it's their total permissions that they're allowed. So what we do is we say to ourselves, okay, so as the owner, what do I want to be able to do? Well, I want to be able to do everything because I own the file. So I want to have read permission, write permission, and execute permission. So 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So if I wanted to give myself full permission, then my total permission value would be 7. So let's change the Python 1.py.back and add this, do the same as we did before, just add executable permissions for the user. So right now, I want to be able to read, write and execute, and I've added that together, which is 7. So the first number is the user's permission value, so 7. For the next number is the group's permission value. Now, what do I really want the group to be allowed to do? Well, I want them to be allowed to read it, they can read the file, and I want them to be able to run the file, but I don't want them to make changes to my Python file, absolutely not. So, for their permissions, I want read, which is 4, and I want execute, which is 1. So 4 plus 1 is 5. So the next value for the group is going to be, they're going to have a permission of 5. For the final value, this is now the permissions for anybody else. So someone that's not the owner and someone that's not in the group. Well, really, I don't want them to be able to do much. I don't want them to read my code. I don't want them to be able to write to my code and edit it. But I will allow them to run it. I'm okay with that. So I just want execute permission. So again, if we look at the table, execute permission is just 1. I don't want anything else. So the total for that permission for everybody else is just 1. And then again, like the previous version, we need to also specify which file we want this on. So I'm going to change the back file. So what this should do, before I hit enter, it should change. So right now, if you look at Python 1.py.back, it's got read write, read read. So I said I'm changing that to read write, read execute, and just execute. Okay, so that's quite a big change, doing a lot of changes in one go. So it should now change to read write execute, read execute, and just execute. Okay, let's look at the back file. So if we look at it, there we go. So we've got read write execute for the owner, read execute for the group, and just execute for the anybody else, for the others. So really it's just a personal preference whether you prefer using and remembering the 3 tables. There's not much in each table, it's not a lot to remember, but I find the numbers simpler. So either you need to remember this set and you need to pick one value from each, or you can just remember this one table and just remember that it's a total for each user. So personally I think that one's a bit more simple. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this tutorial and the end of week 3 activities. So please make sure you do have a go of the activities. The solutions will be there as well, and obviously any issues, post in the forum and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.